Yes, there have been similar experiences in other states where audiovisual contractors have been found to be installing Crestron/AMX control systems with 24 volts direct current power wiring without the required electrical licenses or permits. In New Jersey, as mentioned, anyone wiring over 10 volts must be a licensed contractor or have a fire/alarm contractor exception. This includes the installation of 24 volts direct current power wiring for Crestron/AMX control systems. Installing electrical systems without a license is a serious violation that can result in firstly, fines, secondly, license suspension or revocation, thirdly, liability for accidents or injuries, and fourthly, damage to property. If you are aware of audiovisual contractors installing Crestron/AMX control systems with 24 volts direct current power wiring without the required licenses, you should report them to the appropriate authorities. Contact the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs or your local building department. Document the violations by taking photos or videos of the work being performed and gather any evidence of the contractor's lack of credentials. If you have hired an audiovisual contractor who is not licensed to perform electrical work, consider contacting another contractor to inspect the work and ensure it meets safety standards. Spread the word about the legal requirements for electrical work in your state to prevent similar violations in the future. Some audiovisual contractors may argue that they are exempt from electrical licensing requirements because they are only installing low voltage wiring. However, in most states, the voltage threshold for electrical licensing is typically 10 volts or higher, including 24 volts direct current. It is important to note that even qualified electricians must obtain the appropriate permits and inspections before performing electrical work. Consumers should always verify the credentials of any contractor they hire to perform electrical work, including audiovisual installations. In electrical work, safety and compliance with regulations are critical. When dealing with control systems and low-voltage wiring, it's essential to understand the specific requirements of your local jurisdiction, in this case, New Jersey. The core issue revolves around who is legally authorized to perform electrical work, particularly when it involves voltages exceeding a certain threshold. In New Jersey, that threshold is 10 volts. This means that anyone installing systems like Crestron or AMX, which often use 24 volts direct current for powering touch panels, room controllers, and other devices, must possess the appropriate electrical license or a specific exception, such as a fire/alarm contractor exception. The rationale behind these regulations is to ensure that electrical work is performed safely and correctly, minimizing the risk of electrical shock, fire hazards, and damage to property. Licensed contractors have undergone extensive training and have demonstrated their competence in electrical installations. They are also required to adhere to established safety standards and built-in codes. When unlicensed individuals perform electrical work, they may lack the necessary knowledge and skills to do the job safely. This can lead to a variety of problems, including improperly wired circuits, overloaded circuits, and faulty connections. These problems can not only create safety hazards, but they can also damage the equipment being installed. For instance, improper wiring can damage sensitive electronic components in the Crestron or AMX systems. Overloaded circuits can cause breakers to trip, interrupting the system's operation. Faulty connections can create electrical arcs, which can ignite flammable materials. The consequences of non-compliance with electrical licensing requirements can be severe. As mentioned previously, these can include fines, license suspension or revocation, liability for accidents or injuries, and damage to property. In addition to these direct consequences, there can also be indirect consequences, such as damage to reputation and loss of business. If a contractor is found to be performing electrical work without a license, their reputation can be severely damaged. This can make it difficult for them to attract new customers and retain existing ones. In some cases, they may even be forced to close their business. Given the potential risks and consequences, it's important to take steps to ensure that electrical work is performed by qualified and licensed professionals. If you are considering hiring a contractor to install a Crestron or AMX system or any other system that involves electrical wiring, There are several things you can do to protect yourself. Firstly, verify the contractor's credentials. Before hiring a contractor, check to see if they have the required electrical license. You can do this by contacting the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs or your local building department. Secondly, ask for proof of insurance. Make sure the contractor has adequate insurance coverage to protect you in case of accidents or injuries. Thirdly, get a written contract. The contract should clearly outline the scope of work, the materials to be used, and the total cost of the project. Fourthly, obtain the appropriate permits. Electrical work typically requires permits from the local building department. Make sure the contractor obtains the necessary permits before starting the work. Fifthly, inspect the work. Once the work is complete, carefully inspect it to make sure it meets safety standards and building codes. If you have any concerns, contact your local building department for an inspection. If you are aware of audiovisual contractors performing electrical work without the required licenses, it's important to report them to the appropriate authorities. This helps to protect the public from unsafe electrical installations. You can report violations to the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs or your local building department. When reporting a violation, be sure to provide as much information as possible, including the name of the contractor, the location of the work, and a description of the violation. You can also provide photos or videos of the work being performed. By taking these steps, you can help to ensure that electrical work is performed safely and correctly, protecting yourself, your property, and the public. The issue of low voltage exemptions is also a common point of contention. Some audiovisual contractors may argue that they are exempt from electrical licensing requirements because they are only installing low voltage wiring. However, in most states, including New Jersey, the voltage threshold for electrical licensing is typically 10 volts or higher. This means that even if the wiring is considered low voltage, if it exceeds 10 volts, a license is required. It is important to understand that the definition of low voltage can vary depending on the context. In the electrical industry, low voltage typically refers to voltages below 50 volts alternating current or 75 volts direct current. However, for licensing purposes, the threshold may be lower. Even qualified electricians must obtain the appropriate permits and inspections before performing electrical work. Permits and inspections are designed to ensure that electrical work is performed in accordance with safety standards and building codes. They also provide a mechanism for verifying that the work is done correctly. Consumers should always verify the credentials of any contractor they hire to perform electrical work, including audiovisual installations. This includes checking for the appropriate electrical license, insurance coverage, and permits. By doing your due diligence, you can help to protect yourself from unsafe electrical installations. In summary, electrical licensing regulations are in place to protect the public from the hazards of unsafe electrical work. When dealing with control systems and low-voltage wiring, it's important to understand the specific requirements of your local jurisdiction. Always verify the credentials of any contractor you hire to perform electrical work and report any violations to the appropriate authorities. Safety should always be the top priority when it comes to electrical installations. Remember that even seemingly simple wiring tasks can pose significant risks if not performed correctly. Protect yourself and your property by ensuring that all electrical work is done by qualified and licensed professionals. Furthermore, it is crucial to document any violations that you observe. This documentation can serve as valuable evidence when reporting the issue to the authorities. Take clear photos or videos of the work being performed, focusing on aspects that demonstrate the lack of proper credentials or the violation of electrical codes. Gather any written materials, such as contracts or invoices, that might shed light on the situation. The more evidence you can provide, the stronger your case will be. If you find yourself in a situation where you have already hired an audiovisual contractor who is not licensed to perform electrical work, it is advisable to contact another licensed contractor to inspect the work that has been done. A qualified electrician can assess the safety and compliance of the installation, identifying any potential hazards or code violations. This inspection can provide you with peace of mind and help you to take corrective action if necessary. Finally, it is important to educate others about the legal requirements for electrical work in your state. Spread the word to your friends, neighbors, and colleagues so that they can avoid similar violations in the future. By raising awareness, you can contribute to a safer and more compliant environment for everyone.